It's time now for Back Pages tonight here on Sky Sports News. We're bringing you a first look at the sports stories in the morning's newspapers. And joining us are Charlie Wyatt, football editor of The Sun, Martin Hardy, Northern sports correspondent for The Times, and The Sunday Times. Welcome along to you both, gents, and we'll speak to you in a sec. Let's quickly run you through the back pages as we have them. First of all, The Sun, a bit of transfer news that they're reporting. Deutsche Mark, Bayern apparently interested in Marcus Rashford. Also, you can see at the top there, Jack Draper progressing serenely at Wimbledon. Didn't even need to play the whole match because his opponent retired. Let's have a look at the back page of The Guardian. More tennis here, but Coco Gauff with head in hands as she goes out in the first round, having won the French Open. Also at the top there, Rodri injury setback adds to misery of Club World Cup exit for Manchester City. Front page of the Telegraph sports section has Jack Draper in action on number one court today. Great British takeoff. Also, you can see there an F1 story. Middle East conflict could force F1 to move two races, Qatar and Abu Dhabi. And in the Times sports section, well, yes, of course, a lot of scrutiny for Jack Draper to handle. I can handle the pressure, he says, and also lines on F1. You can see top right on Ben Stokes saying England's victory in the first test since India left him a shadow of his normal self. Welcome once again to Charlie and to Martin. All right, let's head to the back page of The Sun. We're wondering where Marcus Rashford could end up after his little stay at Aston Villa on loan last season. But, of course, that ship has sailed. Could he be heading to the Allianz Arena to join up with Harry Kane at Bayern Munich? What do you make of it, Charlie?
Well, I think Rashford, his heart has been set on a move to Barcelona. But I think if he ended up at Bayern Munich, he wouldn't be complaining. I mean, Harry Kane had one Englishman with him last season when he won the title, Eric Dyer. He's moved on to Monaco now. So maybe Rashford, Bayern's sporting director, they've compiled a list. I don't think Rashford's at the top, if we're being honest, but they're definitely looking at him. He is an option. Luis Diaz is on that list as well. But, if you're Bayern and you're in the market for a wide man, which they clearly are, as Leroy Sané's left the club, Rashford may be, but, United want £40 million for him, which is a lot of money. Maybe it could be another loan deal. I don't think United want that. But, yeah, Marcus Rashford pulling on a Bayern shirt, in the same team as Harry Kane would be, a fascinating prospect.
It certainly would be. And, of course, another little ironic touch to this story, Martin, I'm sure it hasn't escaped your attention, is that if he were to join Bayern Munich, it would be a former Manchester United playing for a former Manchester City captain in Vincent Kompany, who's, of course, head coach there now. How do you think Rashford might fit in, should this come to pass, with Kompany's coaching style?
I think wherever Marcus Rashford lands, and the hope has to be that he leaves Old Trafford this summer, if they get him as fired up as he was at Aston Villa and, maybe 2 or 3 seasons ago at Manchester United, then you're landing a really top-class player. The challenge of the Bundesliga, I'm sure, would be something that would appeal to him if, as is starting with the case, that Barcelona might be an unlikely exit for him. The clock may tick down on this one, because if Manchester United can't receive the £40 million that they want, then you might be looking at a situation there where Charlie's mentioned there that they have to get him off their books, and therefore the loan deal, if a buying club or the loan club like Bayern Munich are keen to pay that salary, then that's a lot of money at £350,000 a week that disappears from Manchester United's wage bill. So I think that would appeal. In playing terms, like I've been on before and I've said, I've always liked the idea of somebody taking a long punt on Marcus Rashford as a centre forward. That won't happen if he's going to a club where Harry Kane is. But playing wide, he still remains a very exciting player. The Allianz Arena might just be the stage to get the best out of him. There are still good years left in Marcus Rashford, and if he was to move to Germany, that would be an intriguing transfer and something for Thomas Tuchel to watch, and hopefully see the best of that player emerge from.
OK, let's have a little look at, day 2 of Wimbledon. So let's switch focus to the tennis. And mentioned in The Sun, Union Jack, but also in the Times Sports section, I can handle the pressure is the quote from Jack Draper. Managed to catch him on court one today, and I have to say, just from the word go, guys, he was just on it, fired up, just knew he had to get off to a clean start, and it was, in fact, even better than clean. Didn't even play a full match because first 2 sets 6-2, 6-2. Then his opponent Sebastian Baez retired due to an injury he sort of suffered earlier in the match. I tell you what, given it's your paper, Martin, I'll come to you first. I mean, it seems like he has all of the attributes. Jack Draper, big serve, big forehand, attacking player, now world number 4. He's handled the pressure up until now, but the scrutiny when it comes to Wimbledon is a very different thing, isn't it?
Yeah, I'm sure a lot of people become huge tennis fans for about 2 weeks out of every 52. And Jack Draper might not have been well known to everybody perhaps a week or two ago, but his persona and standing in English life will change dramatically with each round of Wimbledon that he comes through. He kind of sneaked up on us all to become number 4 in the world, as you said there. He struggled with injuries, which we hope are behind him. It was nice to hear him speak so confidently after his victory and kind of said he was aware of the build-up, aware of that pressure, but now kind of he wants to absorb it and take it, and hopefully this becomes his time. The one thing today is you've seen a player that's at the top of his form in terms of physicality. The confidence will probably develop. It was a difficult opponent today. Potentially was, I think, ranked 38, and he was blown away. As I said, you can imagine, you can dream of that kind of pressure of becoming England's darling of a sport. But until I think you've sat in that chair and felt the pressure, then it would be something completely different. But it's very encouraging to hear him talk so positively that he wants it now and that he's ready for what will come in the next 2 weeks.
Let's have a look at the Daily Telegraph sports section, the picture on that front page. Jack Draper with a topspin forehand, that lefty, that strong weapon that he's got, Charlie. I mean, like he is clearly in that world top 4 on merit, but how do you feel he will stack up against the likes of Yannick Sinner, Carlos Alcaraz? Doesn't have to worry about Alexander Zverev, he's already out. But when it comes to the business end of the tournaments, those semi-finals and finals, how much damage can he do?
He can do damage. There is absolutely no question, and he will do. I mean, he really will do. But he has to learn. I think that he has to suffer a bit of pain first. I think. We saw that with Andy Murray, who often used to get asked about dealing with pressure, and whereas I think Andy changed the mindset of the British tennis players, and he used to say, "Look, I thrive on that." In the past, the tennis fans and some ex-players used to complain about the British press and the TV stations for putting too much pressure on Tim Henman and Greg Rosetsky, and they never complained about it. But Andy Murray always thrived on it, and it's interesting in his interview today, Draper's mentioned about Murray and how all these players coming through is, I think, 7 men in the second round, which is absolutely brilliant. It really is, and very, very unusual that they all watched Andy Murray playing tennis. They've been inspired by him, but equally not just as a player, but the mentality, that winning mentality. And Murray suffered his injury problems. He had some heartbreak early on, but he channeled it in the right way most of the time. So I think Jack Draper, he does have all the tools to become a Grand Slam champion. I think he will win a Slam, at least one. Will it be Wimbledon this year? I'm not so sure. I mean, he's obviously done it elsewhere, but he's not really, progressed far at Wimbledon so far. So this is almost, although it's his home tournament, it's a new tournament, which is actually quite unusual, isn't it? So, I think he's got to get used to that. Silic in the next round, he'll beat him. And of course, you need a bit of luck in the draw. And, we thought it was going to be Alexander Bublik who beat him at the French Open, and he got knocked out today. So, that always, is massively important for a player to sometimes get a little bit of fortune as well. But yeah, Draper's a good story, and we're going to have many, many Wimbledons, I'm sure, watching him.
Yes, many, many roller coasters to ride along with him, I'm sure. I'm going to stick with you, Charlie. Back page of The Guardian has a picture of Coco Gauff. And again, I mean, this one, I don't think anyone could have seen this coming. French Open champion, but defeated in straight sets. And that second set, 6-1 against Daria Yastremska, was, an absolute battering that she suffered. What's gone wrong here?
Really struggled mentally, obviously, judging by the fact that she lost in under an hour. She's dismantled. And what a day in the women's draw, because Jessica Pegula lost as well. in 58 minutes to Elisabetta Cocciadetto. So that was a tough one as well. So the second and third seeds out. On day two, a huge shock for both of them.
Right, let's stay with The Guardian, and we're going to talk Formula 1. It's that time of year, isn't it? Wimbledon, Silverstone, which coincides with the middle weekend of Wimbledon these days. And the piece from Giles Richards, Martin, the headline at the bottom of the front page of the Guardian Sports section, Silverstone should stage race forever, says F1 chief. So this is Stefano Domenicali, who is due to chat with Keir Starmer at Downing Street and try and sort of convince him of how F1 is such an important part of business in Britain, let alone sport and entertainment. What's your read on that?
No, it's good to see him pushing hard for that, to keep the race, not to get the race to Silverstone, and to keep a part of the sporting calendar and fabric. And we see a lot of top sport heading to Saudi Arabia now, where there is great wealth, whether it be the motor racing or it's kind of lit up the boxing game by putting big fights together. But by the same token, don't underestimate the significance of history in sport and tradition, and just what that means. And to British Formula One fans, it's a chance to see the sport live and to get up close and to create a very special atmosphere. So yeah, it's good to see him pushing for that.
Charlie, what are your thoughts in terms of Silverstone? It extended its contract with F1 to host this race until 2034. So that's pretty much the next decade. Do you sense that it will always be, given the fact that it's sort of in that bracket with Monza, with Monaco, those classic circuits, and F1 clearly wants to keep expanding to different territories, but it's got to keep a soul, and Silverstone is very much part of that.
It has. I mean, F1 celebrating its 75th anniversary. There's been F1 at Silverstone since 1950. It's vitally important. Over the years, particularly sort of the last 30, the race has been in doubt a few times. In terms of this have had to be improved, but we shouldn't take it for granted. So that's why the comments today are really encouraging, because let's not forget, there's no F1 in France. There's no F1 in Germany anymore. Germany used to have 2 races, so we've seen that disappear. And next year Madrid's going to get a race along with Barcelona. But they have been messing around with the calendar. There's going to be 3 races again next year in the United States. So they have been tinkering with history. And as Martin said, we've been having quite a few races out in the Middle East, 4 I think as well. So it's hugely important. It's a great weekend. I love going to Silverstone. And thankfully, it's going to be exactly the same weekend next year as well. And as you said, at the very least, right through to 2034.
Yeah, exciting weekend ahead, that's for sure. Thank you very much indeed, guys. OK, we are going to take a quick break, and when we come back, we'll look at more of the sports stories in the morning's newspapers, including this in the Mail, more on Jack Draper, but also Stokes, their top. I'm not worried about my batting form. Of course, England in the second test against India at Edgbaston. You are watching Back Pages tonight. Welcome back to you at home. Welcome back to Charlie Wyatt, who is a football editor for The Sun, Martin Hardy, who is Northern sports correspondent for The Times and The Sunday Times. Right, Charlie, we're heading back to you and your paper, The Sun, and on the left-hand side of the back page, the headline, Pep plots City cull after exit. I have to say, this one, I woke up to this news. I was really quite surprised. City losing 4-3 to Al Hilal to go out of the Club World Cup. So, in terms of, the upshot of this, are you expecting major departures? Is that a little bit knee-jerk? And what has Pep learnt?
I think there has to be departures. I mean, Guardiola, is saying, in that piece, talking about the fact that there were 27 players out there, and that was still too many for him. And not forgetting the fact that there was no Jack Grealish, there was no Calvin Phillips, there was no Kyle Walker. And their futures really look uncertain. It's pretty obvious that they're going to be moved on. There'd be a huge surprise if they weren't. And there are going to be some more changes as well at City. There's no doubt about that. Equally, and apart from that result last night, it'd been an all right few weeks for City, hadn't it? And Guardiola, and he'd been a bit more upbeat, certainly more upbeat than he was the last press conference of the season I was at Craven Cottage, where they'd won at Fulham, but it was not a great end to the season all round for City, because of course they'd lost in the cup as well. So it's been a strange few weeks for them. I'm sure they'll sort it out, and in many respects, this is doing City a favour getting knocked out here. Of course, they wanted to win the Club World Cup. It'd been great financially. The players wanted to win it. Guardiola would have loved it, but of course, it's given them a bit more time just to have that rest. They're still only going to get 3 or 4 weeks before the start of the season. Thomas Tuchel says, in terms of returning for training for the start of the season, Thomas Tuchel said that the Club World Cup, in terms of the impact it will have on Chelsea and Man City, that's why he felt it's really helping, or will help, Liverpool, Arsenal, and he mentioned Newcastle as well, which I thought was interesting. But yeah, it's been a disappointing day to a few okay weeks for City, but uncertain times coming up, I think.
Let's have a look at the other side of that result. A memorable win for Al Hilal. And in your paper, Martin, The Times, Saudi success silences critics, in inverted commas. This is from Sergej Milinkovic-Savic, the Al Hilal midfielder, who says that this is a poke in the eye for critics of Saudi Arabian football. So are they the coming force, as he's seeming to suggest here, Martin?
Look, Al Hilal has good players like Ruben Neves, Koulibaly's in there. This might be the best get out for Pep Guardiola, because his team go home just at the start of July. They can have a bit of rest. Before this game, he had said, when asked about the demands he was putting on his players, he said, "I try not to think about it, otherwise I get too anxious." So it's certainly in his thoughts that this could really exhaust his team. And he said at the same time, "I don't know the impact of playing competitive games now when my players need rest. I know they have complained themselves." And he said, "We'll see come November, December, January." So, and then in the context of the game, I think the thing which will worry Manchester City and Guardiola is the fact that in transition, something they struggled with last season against these fast, strong teams on the counter-attack, this is what did for them in this game. They still had more than 800 passes in the match, 30 shots. So there was a lot of that old Manchester City rhythm that you saw. It's just defensively, that central defensive pairing, and as you said, Rodri went off. Are they a bit light in that centre midfield area? Have they bought too many attacking players? Because they've spent heavily so far in this window and in January. So we'll see. I think what were they, 40, 50 million pounds richer for playing in this tournament, which is a huge boost and help, even for a club like Man City and PSR. I think there's some questions for Pep, but I think he'll be pleased that his players are now heading off for some rest.
Yeah, just short of £40 million in prize money Manchester City have earned from getting through to this stage. Let's go into the inside pages of the sports section of the Daily Telegraph. And Charlie, this piece by Matt Law, Chelsea plan for 9 attackers opens door to more ins and outs. I mean, look, this is nothing new. Chelsea just seem to operate in a situation, a process of flux, don't they? You know, what do you make of, again, how they're operating transfer-wise?
It's just extraordinary, isn't it? You hope that eventually things might quieten down for a few weeks, a few days. And then, they try and, they're up for either, signing another major player or looking to ship a few out. And I'm sure we're going to see both over the next few weeks. I think they've done some good business. There's no doubt about that. I think Liam Delap, particularly for £30 million. I know it's really early days, but I think, particularly. Also Matt's written about maybe Noni Madueke might be leaving the club. Arsenal interested, potentially Newcastle as well. He's a really good player. I can understand why clubs want him. Chelsea aren't actively looking to sell him, but equally, if the price is right, they might look to sell. It'd be a good one for Arsenal, who of course, well, they need to sign someone, basically, or certainly need to sign some forward players. So I can see why they'd want him. But yeah, things never seem to be settled at Chelsea, do they? But equally, it could end up being quite a good month for them if they end up winning the Club World Cup, that's for sure.
And along with the player transfer market, it seems like we also have sort of a sporting director transfer market that is getting more and more active. Same paper, same page. Down the right-hand side, a piece by Mike McGrath and Sam Dean. To you, Martin. Newcastle are ex-Arsenal manager, transfer guru, and his name is Jason Ato. Fill us in on this one.
Well, Newcastle, Paul Mitchell left his position officially yesterday as sporting director of Newcastle. Darren Eales, the chief executive, will leave soon as well. Jason Ato from Arsenal, or formerly of Arsenal, is one of the list of 4 who has been whittled down to 2, along with Ross Mitchell from Nottingham Forest, as potentials to come into that position, which is now vacant at Newcastle. There was high praise for A2 from Mikel Arteta for the work that he did at Arsenal when he was a kind of number 2, and then when he took over in the temporary role, and apparently was very close to getting it permanently as well. Said to have a brilliant knowledge of footballers all over Europe, and one of a player that I like, Martin Zubimendi, who's coming into Arsenal, the Spanish international midfielder, was one that I think he pushed hard for. So I think it's fair to say he does have a very good eye for a player, and we remain to be seen what the next move is from Newcastle. But there are 2 positions that they need to fill in the long term pretty shortly.
OK, let's finish off a bit of cricket. This one's for you, Charlie, and it's in the Mail. Piece by Lawrence Booth, their cricket correspondent. Ben Stokes, confident his batting form will pick up with more time at the crease. I'm not worried about it, says Ben Stokes. But 2 years since his last Test 100, he's averaged just 27 with the bat since the beginning of 2024. Are you more worried about Ben Stokes' batting form than he is?
No, I think it will come back. I mean, some interesting stuff from him today, just talking about how shattered he was last week, basically. Being out in the field for 200 overs, it was really hot. I mean, the most important thing that he feels good again. I think England will be confident. Of course, after this one, another week we're at Lord's. So, it's pretty intense for everyone, particularly when you've got heat like we're going to have again at the moment. Obviously, the wickets are going to be dry as well, but there is a bit of rain forecast, so maybe it'll be a draw. But plenty of room for optimism at the moment.
Yes, and of course the big question, will Jasprit Bumrah bowl? Will he play for India in this second test? OK, right, we'll leave it there. Thank you very much indeed, Charlie Wyatt, and thank you very much indeed, Martin Hardy. We will speak to you again soon. Of course, if you miss any of the show, another chance to Back Pages tonight, 1:30. The show also available as a podcast. Just download Back Pages on Apple, Spotify, wherever you get your podcasts. Join us again Wednesday night. Our guests will be Miguel Delaney from The Independent and John Cross from The Mirror. Real Madrid are through to the quarter-finals of the Club World Cup, and it was one of their new signings, Trent Alexander-Arnold, who assisted Gonzalo Garcia in their win over Juventus.